I worked at LinkedIn for a little under 10 years. So like 9.5 years. And when I was there, I actually did a lot of trainings in the community where I worked with people who were going through different stages of life, whether they were looking for new careers or they were in companies that were laying off employees. I got to work with a ton of different people across the country doing trainings just like this. So I am honored to be here to share a little bit of my expertise with you. In fact, if we think about some different social media platforms, Facebook is kind of like a class reunion, right? So it's like people who know each other. Maybe on Facebook, you're a little bit more wary of strangers. Facebook really centers around groups. Now, if we think about TikTok, TikTok is kind of like a pajama party. Okay. So it's surface level fun. It was initially created for dances and for music, but now there's a lot more happening on TikTok, right? YouTube is that coffee shop hangout, right? This is where you get some work done and you can really deep dive into content. Content lives on YouTube for a good amount of time. Have you ever noticed that? Like you could search for how to fix your vacuum cleaner and find instructions from 8 years ago, and it's still really relevant today. In contrast, Twitter, when we think about that as the party, this is your street corner party. It's people yelling, it's happening in real time. Like that's where stuff's happening in real time. And then Instagram, that's like your brunch club. Okay. It's curated, it's very pleasing to the eye. And then when we think about parties and social media, what is LinkedIn then? Building your professional brand is what we're going to call it, is really helpful on LinkedIn for not only finding jobs, but also nurturing our careers over the long term. Now, what that means then is that being able to build content and then actually use your LinkedIn to apply for and find different jobs, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Your profile on LinkedIn is like the foundation of all activity you're going to do on LinkedIn. What it does is it brings legitimacy to who you are, right? If you were to accept a connection from someone, you would be more likely to accept it from Jane than maybe you would from Stacy because Jane has more information to share. And so I want to talk a little bit about how we can fill out those profiles to do this. When we think of creating your profile, it's kind of like a Zoom. Think of it from the waist up. Okay. When you look at your profile, the top part of your profile is the most important. Thanks for checking that, Roy, for the scribble. Not sure why it's there. Not sure how to get rid of it. So thank you all for your grace. Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit about our headshots, our cover photos, the names, our headline, and the About Me section, because those are the most important parts of your LinkedIn profile. So let's break this down. Your profile photo. Humans like pictures and video. In fact, 44% of users are more likely to engage with profiles that post photos and have video on their profiles. So you can do this by adding your profile photo to your LinkedIn account. Now, I've had a lot of questions about this over the years. For your profile photo, do something that's a headshot, something that is shoulders and above, something where you're smiling. The purpose of this is for name face recognition. Okay. You want to ensure that you're the only person in the photo. That way people know who it is. And you also want to ensure that it's professional. Now, how professional do you need to be wearing a suit? No. If maybe what you're wanting to do wears a suit every day, then perfect. Be that level of professional. But if not, you'll notice that I've had before t-shirts, because I wear a lot of t-shirts during the day, like t-shirts with, just something that looks nice. And you don't have to do that by paying for a headshot. You could do that with your phone camera and it would be great. But again, the whole point of it is for name face recognition. Now, the question came in, background or no background? Good question. Have the background be kind of soft. So if it's a plain color, that's great. If it's something you want you to be the focus of the profile. The other section, though, is the cover image section. You can get a little bit more creative here. This is where you can put something that you're passionate about or something that you would like to share that shows a little bit more about why it is that you're here. Maybe you're on LinkedIn because you want to connect with new people and you're finding that next step in your career, and you know exactly the value that you're going to bring to the company, and you know exactly what it is that you're wanting to do. Put that as your cover image. You can create something like that for free and fairly simply by going to canva.com and creating your own background image. Otherwise, put something that you're passionate about. For a long time on my LinkedIn profile, I showed this image of mountains in the background. There is nothing I want more in life than to live in a place with mountains. That is where I am the most at peace. And so I talk a lot about that, and it always brings up conversation. So something that shows a little bit more about you and something that you're passionate about. And then the last one is rich media. So this allows you to add different pictures and video, news articles to your experience section. So have you won any awards? Have the companies that you've worked at previously won awards or had cool news articles about them? You can share that in your experience section so people can click on it and show you exactly what that looks like. So let me go ahead. I'm actually for these going to pop into my profile here, and I'm going to show you how to do so. All right. Thank you. Continue to drop in those links into your profile if you'd like to add each other onto LinkedIn. It's a great way to connect. And one of the things that I'll share with you that's really helpful is feel free, as if you see someone posting anything that you're connected to through today's session, feel free to like it and comment on it. It's the best way to share their information with your network, and you're really just planting good seeds to be able to help share people's content and get it in front of more eyeballs. Okay, so let's go in and we're going to look at this here. I want to show you, I'm going to use my profile as an example here. And when we actually look at the profile, notice my purpose for being on LinkedIn is to connect with new people. So I created this cover image, letting people know, like, welcome to my profile. I'm excited to be chatting more with you. And then you can see here, if we scroll down, the other thing I wanted to highlight was that you can add rich media like this. So you can add different links. And notice again, it adds more pictures and video to your profile. Does anybody remember why I said adding pictures and video is a good idea? The more pictures and video you have on your profile, the more people are going to stay on your profile for longer, which means then when they see you post, they're going to remember more about you. And then soon they're going to be thinking, okay, for example, in my case, who does social media? Oh, Janae does social media. You know, it's like you become more top of mind for certain skill sets because that's what you're posting about and that's what you're talking about. It's a great way to get people to get to know you a little bit more. And then notice here, for example, in previous positions that I've held, I can actually click into and see some of the links to the websites that for companies that I've worked at in the past. So feel free to add those into your sections as well. All right, I want to hop back here into the PowerPoint presentation. And now I'm going to click into our next section where I want to share a little bit about your About Me section, your headline section, and your public profile. As I do that, I am just going to stop sharing and reshare and see if we can clear out those red dots. Yes, there we go. All right. Your About section. This is your summary section. This is describing who it is that you are, the value that you're providing to your network, and something personal about yourself. So I'm going to say that again. Number one, who it is that you are. Number two, the value that you are providing to your network. And number three, something personal about yourself. Drop in the chat why you would want to share something personal about yourself on your LinkedIn profile. As you're doing that, I'll share my opinion. People like to do business with, whether you are working with or selling to or doing whatever, right? They like to do relationship with people because of number one, their background and the value that they provide. And number two, the most important part, a little bit about who they are and their personality. Okay. So sharing a piece of something that inspires you, that is personal, it helps you, like someone said here in the chat, establish a deeper connection with someone that you haven't met yet. This is what takes your LinkedIn profile and turns it into a living, breathing landing page instead of it being just an online resume. How many of you, if you're really honest, thought that like LinkedIn was an online resume, right? Because that's what we can apply with it to different jobs on LinkedIn, right? This allows us to insert some of these elements that show more about who you are. Your personality, you can add in there. You can add those photos and videos. And this is a great way to begin to establish more trust with people. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about next, your headline. Your headline is this. If we pop back over here into the profile, your headline is what's listed right underneath your name. If you look at mine here as an example, I've listed a bunch of different words that describe who it is that I am, both personally and professionally. If you're thinking through this and you're wondering, what should I put here? Ask yourself these questions, like, how would people describe me? What words would they use to describe what it is that I do? And what phrases would people search for if I wanted them to find me? That's a big one. And again, we go back to what's your goal on here. If you're finding a new position, it could be, expert designer looking for the next opportunity to put my creative juices to use, or sales and marketing professional ready to introduce your company to our next biggest prospects. So you can do this in two ways. You can say, use a bunch of different keywords like I've done in my example, or what you can do is you can list it as more of a sentence, like I help salespeople connect with their next biggest sales, something like that. You have about 140 different characters that you can type in here. So you can get creative, but you also got to keep it kind of short. Cool. All right. Why does this matter to actually having this listed on your profile? Well, if someone is searching on LinkedIn and they look at a search results page, this is actually the information that's going to pull up underneath your name. So it's one of the first things that people will see when they could have the opportunity to click into your LinkedIn profile to learn more about you. So you want it to be catchy enough, that way they click into it. All right, next, I want to share with you how you can set up your public profile URL up here. So this is the simplest way to have people connect with you on LinkedIn. And I see that in some of the things that we are adding in the chat with our profile URLs, some of us have this currently set up and some of us may not quite yet. So the best way to do this is when you're on your profile in the top right-hand corner, you'll see a link for editing your public profile URL. If you haven't edited it yet, when you click in to do so, it's going to actually have a combo of your name and some random letters and numbers. So if you want to remove those random letters and numbers, this is the place where you could do so. That way you can add this to your email signature, your social media profiles. This is something you can add on your resume. This is a great thing that you can continue to have people go to your profile and connect with. So absolutely feel free to update that information. All right, let's go back here. Now I want to talk about more than just these first impressions that matter. Let's talk about the whole outfit. So we talked about how from waist up, when we think Zoom, the top of your profile is extremely important. If we go down to the bottom part of the profile, there are some other things here that I want to highlight for you that as you have time to fill out, that you can definitely do. Your experience section, of course, very important. If it's not filled out yet, which likely if you're here, you probably have something listed there. But if it's not filled out, a great place to start is move those things over from your resume and put them on there. A big question I get about the experience section is how far back in your job history should you go? And the answer to that is as far back as it makes sense. If you're wanting to step into a career that, you have a job or a new industry, and the most recent thing that you've had when you did that before was 10 years ago, then it still makes sense to have it on there 10 years later. But if you're starting new and this is your first time into something and you're just checking things out, like it's okay to have what makes the most sense for you right now. If you have questions specifically that would be helpful for your specific situation, let me know. Feel free to drop them in the chat. You can share them in the chat publicly. You can also privately message and I can answer them anonymously. Happy to help out with any of those particular questions. Add your education section. Add any licenses and certifications you have. You can also include things here like courses that you've taken, whether you paid for them or didn't. It could even be things that you've done on LinkedIn Learning, for example. This gives you the opportunity to learn more things and share some of the knowledge that you are gaining when you're going through this process. The next one, and the one that I have highlighted for you, is the recommendations area. This is one of the biggest things that you can do with your LinkedIn profile that you can't do necessarily on a resume. Here, you can ask people that you're connected to recommend you. So it could be previous bosses, previous coworkers, previous people you've done business with, people you've mentored, teachers, mentors yourself, and absolutely volunteer experience sections. So a couple things for volunteer experience sections. You can, within volunteer experiences, there's a specific section for this where you can list that. You can also have, so for like AmeriCorps, for example, this is one that I feel like you could maybe put in both categories. If you wanted to put in your experience section, or if you wanted to add it underneath volunteer experiences, you can determine what's best for you. Also use these volunteer experiences to get recommendations from people that you've worked with as well. One of the biggest things that people ask me is like, how do I get a recommendation from someone? And I'll actually show you how simple it is. So I'm going to go back here into my profile. And now I'm going to scroll down to my recommendation section. Click the plus sign, and I'm going to click ask for a recommendation. So you can ask for recommendations from people that you are currently connected to. So you're connected with your first degree connections. On Facebook, we would call that friends. It means that at some point you sent them an invitation and they accept it. In this case, let's say I'm going to type in Roy as an example. From here, I would then say, how do I know Roy? Well, we work together. In fact, Roy managed me directly when I first started at Smart Recruiters. And then I would tell Roy why it is that I'm wanting that personalized recommendation. Let's say I was going to make another career move, and Roy knows a lot about my personality, my grit, how I can push through the unknown and figure out those circumstances. And of all of the people I could get who could give me a good recommendation for that, Roy would be the one I would ask for that. And so I would share that with him. I'd say, hey, Roy, on my profile, I'm trying to highlight opportunities where I pushed through unknown circumstances and got clarity and brought a lot of joy and enthusiasm. Could you share something in a recommendation for me? And then we'd click send. And that way, Roy has an idea when he receives it, what it is that he would like to say. And so that's the biggest way to be able to get people to fill out more recommendations for you, is to give them a couple hints as to reasons why they should be filling out the recommendation. So that way they have an idea of what it is that you're looking for. All right, got some questions coming in. So let me make sure and hit these. Let's see. let's see, trying to decide which pieces of my job history should be there. It may look a little scattered and maybe needs an overhaul. Perfect. So yes, received a lot of spam via LinkedIn. Absolutely. So what I would suggest is if there is a thread through your story, let's say you've taken some time off between different positions and been figuring, out different areas of life and what you've been learning about yourself through the process, using your summary section to kind of create that storyline of your job history will really help in bringing things together collectively. So you could say, if you've taken some time off for different things and learn new skill sets throughout, share that in your summary section. That way, when someone looks at the experience section, they can go back to the summary and be like, oh, and then here's where these different skill sets were learned through these different breaks in time. And as you were determining which industries you wanted to be in and where you wanted to go in your career, that could really help from that perspective. If you have more questions, happy to feel free to send me another message and we can go in deeper on that if you would like. As far as volunteering, could you use times that you might have volunteered at children's schools or just professional volunteering? Absolutely. Yeah. A great thing about volunteering is this is you giving of your resources. And so whether it's at a children's school or it's at some more of a professional like networking thing, these are still ways that you're showing up for your community. And so I think these are great things to be able to share. One of the best parts about adding volunteer experiences to your profile is that way you can show the things that you're the most passionate about. And so if one of them is doing different events at your children's school, absolutely go ahead and add that to your profile. All right, now let's go ahead. We're going to pop back here and I want to share with you your goal when you're looking at your LinkedIn profile. Going back to the analogy of showing up to the party and getting dressed using your profile, you can wear whatever you want. You can fill it out as much or as little as you want, but the main thing is that you want to get dressed, right? And so how you get dressed on LinkedIn is you get your profile to 100% complete. As you're filling it out, you'll see a bar at the top letting you know if you are currently there or not. So here are some things that help you get to 100% complete. And if you are not currently there, it will tell you exactly what those things are that you need to do. But they are adding a profile photo, having past positions listed on your profile, filling out some skills listed there, your summary section, your industry and postal code, if you've gone to school, and then starting to add connections to your account. So your goal is to have a minimum of 50. Well, if everyone here adds their profiles in together, we are almost halfway there, right? So if we all started from scratch. So we're already starting to make some big progress on that. All right, I want to chat a little bit about creator mode because this is a newer feature within LinkedIn that you may not know as much about. But before we go there, because now I'm going to go a little bit deeper in our knowledge of LinkedIn, any questions about the profile in general that have come up for you or anywhere where you would like me to go deeper? I'm going to pull up my profile as the example again. We'll scroll through here and then we're going to take it a level deeper where we talk about creator mode, which is an option that's available for all of you. Your about section, your experience section. All right, I think we're going to move on, but if those questions come up, don't hesitate to let me know. Okay, moving into creator mode. Everyone on LinkedIn has the option to turn creator mode on their account. This allows you to showcase different activity that you're doing on LinkedIn. You can add different hashtags to your profile. So if there's certain things that you're wanting to learn about or wanting to have more conversations about, you could add those as hashtags. That way, if someone searches for those hashtags, they may find your profile. This actually downplays a bit of the resume feel. And so instead of it highlighting the experience section first, it's going to highlight the content that you're posting. So for those of you who enjoy posting, like you like sharing things that you're learning, talking about your searching and what you're learning about taking these next steps in your career, creator mode may be a great way for you to start to share some of that. It gives you access to some features like newsletters, or if you'd like to go live on your profile, you can also see more specific content analytics for who's looking at things that you're posting. There are some pitfalls though, which is why I like to share both of these sides. One of the things that it does is it prioritizes having a follow button. So people won't necessarily automatically connect with you if they want to. Like they could just choose to follow you instead of being first degree connections. In my opinion, if you have less than 1,000 to 2,000 connections, I would not turn on the creator mode. But if you're wanting to post a lot, you're wanting to get known and really start to share your knowledge and what this journey has been like for you, and you're wanting to be a content creator, creator mode is a great way for you to begin to do that. So just an option for you to look at. If you would like to see how that looks, I actually have creator mode on my profile. So you can see here that I have the hashtags listed of what I'm talking about. You can also see that more of my featured section is going to be listed at the top, with my activity section being listed really big, and then my resume down below it. Okay, so just some options for things that you could add to your account if you would like. Now, if we dive in deeper, another thing you could add to your profile is if you would like to get a LinkedIn premium account. There's a couple of reasons why having a paid subscription for LinkedIn are good. And now that I don't work for LinkedIn, I can also tell you some reasons why you may not need it. Is that okay if I just give you my personal opinion? All right. So there's 3 things why having a paid account is good. With a paid account, you can see who's viewed your profile. So if someone's looking at your profile and they have their security settings turned on, you can actually see a list of people back 90 days. So let me show you an example of what that looks like. If I scroll down underneath analytics, my profile views, I can actually see who's checking out my account back 90 days. Notice though, for example, if someone does not have their settings turned on, you can't pay to be able to see someone who has their settings turned off. So, but you will just be able to see some information about them. Okay, so that's a perk. One of the reasons that this could be good is if you're applying for positions or having interviews and you're seeing that people are looking at your profile, that's a good indicator of interest. But again, depending on what you choose to do with it, that may or may not be helpful. So I want to be really clear about that. If you're not going to follow up with people, then maybe it's okay to not know if they're looking to. Another cool feature is salary search. Now, within LinkedIn, as you're searching for jobs, if you have a paid account, you'll be able to see if the company put a job thing here. You can actually see more information about the job. So let's go ahead and click here. So like people and culture, if I scroll down here, under the premium account area, you would be able to see how many other people have applied for the job. You can also see some of the skills that they had listed on their profiles that have applied for the job, their level of status, education level, where they're located, more information about the company itself. So like the company's employee trajectory, and also other companies that may be similar to them. So there's a good amount of different paid options that you can see here. You can also, if we go to the actual company page itself, we can see total employee count, kind of where those employees are across the organization. And sometimes here, in this case, it doesn't have any that we can see, but new hires that they have listed, different job openings, et cetera. So some really interesting insights that you can pull from companies as you're choosing to apply to them. The third one, which is perfect timing for if you just posted in the chat, is a paid feature is being able to send private in-mail messages to recruiters or people at different companies. So let's say, for example, you are job searching. And if we go up here and we type in, let's say, I'm just going to use human resources as the example. And I pull human resources in jobs. Let's say I'm wanting to see this one here. With an in-mail, you can actually go through, look at the job description, and sometimes it will list who the person is who posted the job. Another way is if you can't see who the person is, in this case, it doesn't show it. Let's see if we can see one here that does. Not here either. But what you can do is you can pull up the recruiter at Deloitte or the recruiter at CCK Strategies and then choose to send them a private message. You can only send these types of private messages to people you don't know by paying and having a subscription to do so. But what this allows you to do is then you can introduce yourself while you're applying at the same time and starting that conversation. Now, one thing that you can do, which I think is also helpful and is actually free to do, is let's say you find a position. I'm looking at this one here, this human resources specialist. Notice that it says I have one connection who works here. If I have one connection, it means we're first degree connections. Again, we are friends on LinkedIn. And now I can actually send this first degree connection a message and say, hey, I'm looking at this position. Is this something, that you think would be a good fit for me? Could you introduce me to someone at the company? Ironically, it's a little bit how I got introduced to Roy and began talking at Smart Recruiters. As I said, hey, I know that you work there. I see this position is available. Is this something that could be a good fit for me? And so that's a great way to be able to utilize your network to not only learn more about the company, also determine if the job is a potential good fit for you, and to get that kind of inside introduction into someone who could be a key decision maker. All right, let's go here now. And I'm going to go back and I want to chat with you a bit about passive searching on LinkedIn. Y'all, I have 3 dogs in this house and no one was supposed to ring a doorbell. So it may get a little loud for a second and then it's going to calm down. Thank you for your grace. Okay, so when we talk about passive job searching, there's a feature on LinkedIn that you can turn on to showcase that you are looking for a position. You can do so here by actually going to your profile. And when you click into your profile, you can then click the Open To button. Does everyone see that? Okay. This will allow you to say if you are looking for a new position. And I want to highlight this piece for you. This is going to let you say what types of job titles you're looking for, workplaces that you have. So if you want to work remotely or if you'd like to have a hybrid position, your different locations, when you're looking to start. And then you can also determine if you want anyone on LinkedIn to be able to see this, or if you want it to only be available for recruiters to see. Here's the main difference. Has anyone seen here that Open to Work green banner that's available that says Open to Work? Raise your hand or drop a yes in the chat. Perfect. Seeing some raised hands. I'll see some yeses come in too. So that's when people have turned this on. So if you've wondered where that comes from, that's where that comes from. The main thing is that if you do the recruiters only, this is only for companies who would be able to see this, would be companies who can see the, y'all, here's what I'm going to do very quickly. If it's okay, I'm going to just let the dogs outside so that way they stop barking. Will you give me 1 second while I step away very quickly? Thank you. Roy, feel free to chat if you would like for 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. This really has worked for Janae. This is how she and I knew each other from before. I had no idea that she was looking for a job. She had been at LinkedIn for 9-10 years. She had done that the role that I was looking to hire, but I had no idea. And the only way she was able to connect the dots and be able to maximize the network that she has, because oftentimes you know people, but you don't know what roles they're looking for. You connect with people, you don't know what are the opportunities that they're actually working on, because she and I volunteered in prison, and all the conversations that we had were about how was everybody doing in prison, and can we help them get jobs and things like that. And it's when we found, when so she and I were friends, but the missing link happened on LinkedIn when she used exactly what she's mentioning in order to find that job opportunity. So this is a living proof of it working effectively.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. Okay, so if we go back and we look then here, I mentioned you have those two options that you can turn on. I call this passive looking because what this will do is it will highlight for other people that you're looking, but it's not necessarily taking the step to be applying for a position. So doing both is a great way to begin to actually make good traction on this process and begin to find that career that you're looking for. So the next piece after passively looking is beginning to actively look, where you can type in keywords for jobs that you're interested in and saving those jobs. Now, if you've been on LinkedIn for a bit and you've been starting this process, you may be more familiar with this. But what I want to highlight for you is how you can save those jobs and come back to them. So if we click in here, and we did a search for human resources as the example, two things I want to highlight for you. Number one, if this is a search that you're going to be doing on a regular basis, you can choose to set a search alert up. All you have to do is click that on. What it's going to do is it's actually going to send you an email to your primary email address that you have attached to your LinkedIn every time a new job happens in underneath this save search. So every time something new comes in, you're going to get an email about it, so you can quickly go ahead and determine if this is the best route for you. So great way to be able to see those new things that are happening and going from there. The other piece is as you're going through and you're looking and you find one that you're interested in, but let's say you don't have time to apply for it right now. Go ahead and click the save option. I'm just going to save a couple of these right now. Notice you can save them from your results page or by actually going into the profile itself. And then you can access your saved jobs to go back and apply to them again. So go ahead and find 5 or 6 or 10 of them that you're interested in getting more information about, and then move them into the saves, and then set time up for yourself in the afternoon and knock out and apply to several of those as well. It's a great way to kind of, sometimes the process of job searching is a lot, right? Like raise your hand if you know that it's been a lot sometimes. If you can split it up into some sections that are smaller, like first going through and saying, these are the ones I'm interested in, and then going back and saying, now that I found the ones I'm interested in, these are the ones I'm going to apply for. And then the next step is, after these are the ones I'm going to apply for, this is how I'm going to follow up with them. It's a great way to break it up into a couple different steps to allow that to be a little bit more digestible. Cool. All right. Well, question came in, which option did you say was the best, whether just recruiters or everyone? In my opinion, I would set your option up for, let me go back here so we can see exactly what this looks like again. So we go to our view profile, click open to, and then we are going to click finding a job, choose who sees that you're open. The best one to get the most results is to open it to all LinkedIn members to be able to see. And so this would have that open to work badge, and it also allows anyone within LinkedIn to be able to see that you're actively looking. That's the one I would suggest. Question came in, how can you tell if the process is slow or your application submission is being ignored or overlooked to determine if you need to make changes? Great question. What I would suggest doing is for many places where you apply, it may not tell you where it is in the process. There are some organizations that allow you to see exactly where it is as to if it's being reviewed or not reviewed yet. And if you've found that it's been a week or so and you're wanting to follow up, using InMail as an example to follow up with a recruiter would be a great way to touch base with them. Something that's also helpful, and that was super helpful for me in my process, was going through and after an interview, following up and seeing if there was any feedback that they had that they would have liked to have heard more about, or anything I could have been clearer on. Whether I did or didn't get the position, this is something I always ask, because feedback is good and it helps get you clearer on how you can interview, or if there's questions that were within the resume itself. So that would be a great start. Again, I think all of you are working with someone as well at Smart Recruiters that is available for you if you have and would like specific feedback on your resume or on your LinkedIn profile, or help with any of those interview like questions that you can come across. So really happy to help partner with you on that as well.